I'm Nick Tomiolo, and this is my presentation on user-generated maps. This is current as of May 2nd, 2011. Here's the cover of my forthcoming book, along with a stellar endorsement from Eric Leese Morgan of the Notre Dame Libraries. Don't know how this slide got in here, but as long as it's there, let me tell you a couple of things I have realized about book publishing from my two brushes with it. It takes a long time to publish a book, and sometimes by the time it comes out, it could be a history book. It needs revision, rewriting just before it comes out, and sometimes it's extensive and very labor-intensive. I'm here to tell you a little bit about social software and user-generated content and how we can use them in libraries. Many librarians use social software to promote their libraries and programs and to involve patrons in various library activities. But my topic is user-created maps, though that may not seem like a library topic, strictly speaking. Some librarians are designing and implementing maps with some clever outcomes in a few cases. Librarians and other end users expand, extend, and augment the online content by taking advantage of the software that different websites create and offer us to use. There are many ways we're using the web as a software platform, and one way is remixing or combining content from different information sources or content collections and representing it. And creating maps and mixing content with maps are examples. These are some of the features of user-created maps. Using Google My Maps, the most basic maps we create are going to use place marks. Sometimes we can substitute shapes for place marks. A small icon of an airplane could serve as a place mark for an airport, or a caduceus could indicate a hospital. We can also draw paths using lines, and of course utilizing only these basic options soon becomes somewhat monotonous, and because our goals probably include making an interesting map with value-added content, we soon move on to inserting links and embedding photos and video. YouTube has many videos demonstrating how to make basic maps. As far as discovering maps made by end users, once upon a time there were a few ways and places we could search for them. That has changed since I submitted my book to the publisher, and it's even changed over the past couple of weeks due to an apparent decision on the part of Google. Most of the maps for this presentation were made with Google My Maps. There are a few other websites that give us the code or menu to make maps, but My Maps is the choice for users who desire a very easy-to-use free application. Other sites offer you the means to combine a Google map with different data or different display options, but again, most of these sites base what they offer on Google Maps. Now here, Megan, our first cyber cartographer, created a map using photos from Flickr or perhaps Wikimedia Commons as place marks for the 7 wonders of the modern world. For every map creator, there is a different way of approaching a map. This map maker has 7 dark blue place marks for wonders of the ancient world, 7 red place marks for wonders of the medieval world, 7 yellow place marks for the wonders of the modern world, and place marks for the underwater world and Walt Disney World and Wally World. The same user knows how to enliven the map with images, text, and links. Here's the first map I made, and I wanted to give it some value-added features. So in addition to text, I wanted to include images and sound. So I swapped out the default place marks with headshots I found at Wikimedia Commons. So theoretically, they're all in the public domain. Next, I looked for brief biographies, and I found those at libweb.net. Then I linked to a couple of sites, including Google Books and Project Gutenberg, that had the texts of stories, poems, or novels by my great American writers of the 19th century. I was fortunate because I found a couple of sites where a few representative works were actually read aloud, and I embedded those links to the sound files. The arrows on this map point to the links I included that will access that content. If you've never made one of these maps, but you're curious about it, and are wondering how you can get started, you log into Google My Maps with your Google ID, click Create New Map, then just click the Edit button that I've circled in red. Like anything else, some practice and experimentation will be necessary before you're happy with your map, but it's a good exercise, and hopefully you'll make something that is useful too. According to this graphic, the map has been viewed 189 times, which is not very many, but I certainly didn't look at it that frequently. Maybe someone else found it interesting. I put this map together rather quickly to show you that you can also embed video. In this map, the place mark for the Connecticut State Library has an embedded video of a snappy library tour. All the maps so far are at web addresses that begin maps.google.com, but you don't always have to have your users go to Google Maps. You can easily embed your map on your own. After you make your map in Google Maps, just click Link in the upper right of your map, copy the embed code, and place it on your web page. Because so many websites have opened their software to third-party developers and end users, you'll find services like this one, which is called Map Channels. And these sites permit you to create your map using Google Maps, but the sites also give you options to reinterpret your creation, use different content or a different view. Here's a straight Google map I made pinpointing Fulton Street. In this slide, Map Channels lets you switch out to a Google Street view of Fulton Street. Switch maps again, and the Map Channels overlays a Bing aerial map of the Fulton Street Lower Manhattan area. There are a couple of other optional switch maps, but these three sufficiently illustrate the flexibility of some of these mapping. And there's no restriction on what people will map. I've seen maps on rum, the best vacation spots in the world, famous sports venues, and this one, which is fairly basic, but apparently someone shares my affinity to Edgar Allan Poe. And I could probably find out who created this map, and the two of us could start a Poe fan club, and that's why we call it the social web. Here's a map that seems to be near and dear to the hearts of librarians. You may or may not be able to see it, but in the bottom left corner of this map, it says the map has almost 2 million views, and 10 people have worked on the map. Another bibliophile has worked up a map showing where you can search for an author or title to see where a literary work was set, or conversely, click a place mark to see what work of literature is set in that geographic location. Does user-generated content have a use at the reference desk? Possibly. A reference librarian might get a question that this map could answer. This one might interest some people if we take the time to verify the stats or look at the author's profile. This map has considerable value. If you've ever searched the site called Open Door, you know that it serves as a front end to 1,900 open access scholarly repositories. This map permits geographic access to the individual repositories. This concordance of place names for the Bible demonstrates another educational use of maps. The good old days. When I was working on my book and getting excited about user-generated maps, Google made it extremely easy to find them. At maps.google.com, the page had a Show Search Options button that allowed you to choose an option to search user-created maps. I don't expect you to read these two comments on this slide, but in early 2011, the ability to search for user-created Google Maps via this Show Search Options disappeared. This slide has excerpts from the Google Maps help forum where irritated map user on the top of the slide has been bemoaning the disappearance of the option to search for user-created maps, while the Google employee below assures irritated map user and the rest of us that the feature will return. When something like this happens, it really grinds my gears because it means I have to revise my book. There are, however, many Google Maps users who are interested in locating these end-user created maps, and one of them came up with this search string, which actually worked when trying to limit your searches to user-generated maps. Until a couple of days ago, that is. So a few days ago, this search formula using oil spills as a phrase successfully identified a map of the 10 worst oil spills. But Google took that away too. This user, Barry Hunter, seems to intuitively know what's going on. The comment on top is from me to the help forum. The reply is his. As you can see, and I'm telling you this is a nightmare for the end user who creates maps and the end user who is exploring maps. So we have to adapt and do even clunkier, cruder things like this. In the Google Web Search's advanced search interface, and that's how we can rescue or salvage our ability to find maps until Google decides to resurrect the option on its own and gets around to adding the Show Search Options button back in. And this method seems to work, but I hope Google, in its infinite whatever, will make this better and soon. Many library maps merely show where a library is. They call it, this is a here we are map. And that's fine as far as it goes. It performs a function. But while the here we are map has its uses, let's consider other ways people have infused their maps with content. Here's a map from a library in Wisconsin. The library has an online pictorial history of its area, and someone has mapped it, including a thumbnail image, a description of the photo, and a link to a larger image that is hosted by the library. That is, the photo itself is hosted at the library. I mention that because many of the photos you find in user-created maps are hosted at. Here's another good example. Librarians at Brigham Young University were able to make various parts of the library's digital collections available through the Google Maps in a project called Mapify. The materials include photographs and travel diaries that are accurately pinpointed on a Google Maps interface and are found by navigating the map, browsing by geographic location, or performing keyword searches based on harvested metadata. Translation: search for something, or better yet, click on a hot place mark on the map, and it shows you a digital object in the library's collection. This one is from the New York Law School Library. Here, click a flag and you are taken into the Mendick Library's catalog to see items with that geographical keyword or subject. You can also use the links on the left to see an entry in the CIA fact book. According to its creator, Terry Ballard, formerly of Quinnipiac University but now at the New York Law School, he had a student assistant make the first layer of the interface, and then the student assistant added a layer linking each country with its CIA World Factbook entry. And then Terry had the student replace the generic place marks with images of maps from each country. Finally, he had the student add an image or two from each country from photos in Wikimedia Commons. And it works just fine. Let's click Iran, which lands us in the library catalog. And the final result is item record level. I'd give this map a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10. That's pretty good. Please direct your attention to this map from the Foster Anthropology Library at the University of California, Berkeley. The map I'm going to show you lives at Google Maps, but it is embedded in the library's page. Beginning at the home page, we click, landing on this page, which has a link to the map I want to show you. Using this map, you click on place marks at different parts of the world to see data about Berkeley dissertation research that was done at specific. The information on the map includes a link to the ProQuest Dissertations database, where Berkeley students and faculty or other authorized users can read the dissertation. This is somewhat unrelated, but I'll close with a couple of interesting ironies to consider. At libsuccess.org, you can see where I added 2 links to the maps at the Mendick and Foster libraries. Any registered user can edit this wiki. But if you try to take a URL and shorten it with tinyURL, bit.ly, or any of the other services and use it on this wiki, you'll get your hand slapped because perhaps this has discouraged some people who would have otherwise contributed a link. Besides using the Library Success Wiki and searching Google Maps, I also found maps through searching delicious tags and narrowing the search with other tags. And that sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But my book also talks about the positives and negatives of tagging in folksonomies. While I was learning more about tags, I found out about the research site Games with a Purpose, also known as GWAP. And at GWAP, you can try to match your descriptive tags with another user's tags in an activity aptly called the ESP game. And I think you may be surprised at how long it takes for 2 people to describe an image with matching words or matching tags. If you're interested in working more with maps, check out the map sites page I created for the map chapter of my book. Here's the address. And thanks for checking out this presentation.